Hello, everybody, and welcome to this recap of. It's been funny. I started this channel back in April, and it's been no news for like 6 months, 8 months, 4 years. How long has it been? Anyway, but we keep having these things where like all the news breaks in one day. We had the DC fandom earlier this summer. Today, Disney had their Investor Day, and they dropped news about Pixar. They dropped news about Walt Disney Animation. They dropped news about Marvel. They dropped news about Star Wars, basically laying out the roadmap for what the next few years is going to be. A couple things that they did not announce. There was rumored, perhaps, number one, that they would announce that a large number of their films that are scheduled for theatrical releases might instead be going straight to Disney Plus. They mentioned that Raya and the Last Dragon is going to be premiered simultaneously in theaters and on Disney Plus Premiere Access, which is how Mulan premiered, essentially meaning you're probably gonna have to pay a fee to watch it. But they did not make that note necessarily for any of the other ones. So there was no major move to streaming like we saw from HBO Max. There had also been some rumors that they might be integrating in some way Disney Plus and Hulu. There was no talk about that. However, they did speak about a service called Star, which is rolling out in international countries that does allow you to access more mature content, shows like Family Guy, movies like Logan, that we don't have here, but it does allow for some kind of entryway if you're on Disney Plus for more mature content. So is that going to open the doors for that kind of thing later on here in the United States? Who knows? But there's so much to talk about. I want to put up, I'm going to try this. I tried this once when I did a live stream, very first started the channel, but I'm giving it a shot because we are actually developing a live show that's going to be probably, honestly, after the holidays at the beginning of the new year, a weekly live show. But I want to try to get this system down. So if you want to ask a question, if you'd like to ask a question, we're going to try to go through the comments. But if you want to make sure it gets through, then you can either super chat if you're watching here on YouTube, or you can use Streamlabs. That is the Streamlabs address right there, streamlabs.com/Dan Merle Movies. If you want to ask a question, you can send in. I'm not putting a price limit on it. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's really, we're just kind of trying to get the system worked out. So if you want to make sure that your question gets through, because I know there's a lot of interest in all this stuff, you can do one of those two things. But let's start out with, well, first of all, what I thought was kind of a funny thing, which was, I don't know if you were watching the webcast. It was webcast from Disney HQ, not on YouTube, but they had a webcast set up. It was a bit frustrating because most of the video previews that they showed, they could not show on the webcast. They said it was something due to streaming rights. So the investors got the real show. No word yet on what a lot of those things were that we couldn't see. But when they first started out, it looked like a prescription drug ad. Because the guy came out, he was talking about the Disney and the investors and whatnot, et cetera. And there's this list of a disclaimer thing. So I thought that was pretty funny. But they also were talking about a lot of stuff before we get into the Marvels, the Pixars, a lot of stuff on Hulu, some things they're developing, some original series. The big one that caught my eye was one that is coming to FX, and that is an Alien series that Noah Hawley, who, if you know Noah Hawley, he does Fargo, he's done a lot of great work, is developing in conjunction with Ridley Scott. So Ridley Scott will also be producing or executive producing that series. They didn't really give a whole lot of details other than that it's a live action series, that it will be set on Earth. And so that really kind of, anything that Noah Hawley's involved in, my antennae go up a little bit. So that was really interesting from the TV side of things, at least, that didn't involve Disney or Disney Plus. But let's talk about Marvel and the MCU. And I've got some images for this part. My apologies. I had some issues with the other images that I pulled. So I've got these images. I might not have as many as we go forward. But the first thing that we got to look at was a new look at WandaVision, which is the original series that's going to be coming to Disney Plus. And this was the first one, I think, that took a little bit more behind the sitcom than what we've seen before. There were some shots of the Infinity Stone and Vision's head exploding, the fact that this is going to be part of something that's tying into Doctor Strange, which we also found out about. We knew that this was going to tie into Doctor Strange. Kevin Feige also confirmed that Doctor Strange is going to tie into the third Spider-Man movie. That's the one thing that there's been news about for the last couple days now, that we heard nothing about as far as official word from Disney today. But Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is going to be a bridge that connects both WandaVision and the Spider-Man film. So that we know, we saw a little bit more of. That's going to be the first original series that we see. Then we got a couple of little other tidbits. We got a look at Falcon and the Winter Soldier, some shots of Baron Zemo. I thought that's going to be a really interesting show. Kevin Feige described it as a movie in 6 different parts. Then we got some news about She-Hulk, which there had long been rumored that Tatiana Maslany was going to be playing She-Hulk. She was confirmed to be playing She-Hulk, but we also got the return of 2 critical cast members confirmed today. Mark Ruffalo returning as the Hulk, Tim Roth returning as Abomination. Now, we have not seen Tim Roth anywhere in the MCU since The Incredible Hulk back in 2008. That movie is canon. I saw some confusion. People saying, well, that movie's not canon. It is canon. They just choose to ignore most of everything that happened in it. So we know that is some key things. And that was really the theme of Kevin Feige's presentation, was the connectivity, how everything is connected in the MCU with the series and the movies, and the fact that these are all one big piece, that these are all one whole, and probably good for their bottom line. You have to watch everything in order to understand what's going on. That's kind of been the case with the movies. It seems like it's going to be the case with most of these series. We got a couple little other bits of information. We got the official name for the new Ant-Man movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. So you have Blood and Thunder, you have Quantumania. I think we're at the part where the MCU is just kind of saying, whatever, we're just going to do what we want to do. We're in the have fun phase. There were some other confirmations as far as original series that are going to be going straight to Disney Plus. One of them was Ironheart, and it was confirmed that Dominique Thorne has been cast as Ironheart, as Riri Williams, who is a character that people have talked about a lot in connection with the Iron Man universe. There was also another Iron Man project called Armor Wars, which is about Iron Man's armor falling into the wrong hands. We got to look at the animated series What If, which is something that I'm very excited about. And then we heard about Miss Marvel, which is they have cast the lead role. It's going to be a live action show going on to Disney Plus, but it was also announced that the character of Miss Marvel will be appearing alongside Captain Marvel in Captain Marvel 2 when that film comes out. So the meshing, the merging, the melding of all of these things together, a big theme of their presentation today. There were a couple of things that were dropped about Black Panther 2. One of them, a confirmation from Kevin Feige that they will not be recasting the role of T'Challa, that Chadwick Boseman will not be replaced, that they will move on with the story, but not with that specific character. And then remaining committed to the release date with Ryan Coogler in July of 2022. So that was the major news to come out from this panel, except for one thing, and perhaps it's the biggest thing. It's the thing that so many people have been waiting for a confirmation of. The Fantastic Four will be making their debut in the MCU at an undetermined date in the future. All Kevin Feige would say is that there is a Fantastic Four project in the works, that it will be directed by John Watts, who has revived Spider-Man via Tom Holland. And so that is a huge little tidbit that he saved there for the end. There are still some things out there. Of course, nothing with the X-Men. I think it's going to be a while before we hear anything about that. But just seeing that the first family of Marvel will be returning to the MCU at some point in the future, I think is making a lot of Marvel fans happy. So let's see if we have any. I see a super chat here. This is from Carter. Thank you, Carter. I appreciate that. Carter Lovejoy asks, my only gripe with Disney is whether or not they'll continue physical media with new and catalog stuff, since pushing it more for Disney Plus and Hulu. And that's going to be the question is, I do the show, my podcast, all my movies is all about literally the movies that are downstairs in the movie closet. And the fact that I like to pull them off the shelf, that is going to be a great question. Will there be a component wherein they will be releasing these films on some kind of physical media? I would prefer that as well. They've been moving away from it, though. They've been moving away from it, and I think that to hope and to expect that that's going to happen might be a bit of false hope, but I would hope that we would see some of it. Movie Fanobi asks, Dan, great deep dive on Die Hard on my podcast. Thank you. One of my favorite movies, not sold / need all of the wars and stars, but several I'm excited for. Kenobi and Ahsoka especially, and Rogue Squadron. Stay safe, Dan and Mara, and good luck. Defend the belt. Thank you, Movie Fanobi. I will be fighting to retain my my championship belt, my Schmodown championship belt. Yeah, where is it? It's over here somewhere. Thank you. Mara's going to grab it for me. I was meant to put it out back. I was running around like crazy getting stuff together today. Yeah, all the Star Wars stuff is out, and that's what we're going to talk about next is Star Wars, because there was a lot of Star Wars. Here we go. I'm going to be fighting to defend this baby right here. It wasn't in the background on one of my other videos, so some people thought that I might have lost it. Hell no, I'm having fought for you. I'm defending it on Saturday, so watch to see me defend this belt on Saturday. It's going to be a tough fight, but it's right here. I never let it get too far before I get a chance to defend it. So check out the Schmodown Spectacular on Saturday.
That's actually a replica. It got lost in the movie.
Let's see. Let's see. Blacklash225 says, what are you most excited about? Star Wars or Fantastic Four news? Both? Ooh, that's a good question. We'll talk about there's a few extra things that we know about Star Wars that I want to talk about. So we'll see. We'll see about that one. Jody Harkavy. Hey, thank you, Jody, says, do you think they'll announce Deadpool? I think that they got to figure out what Fox is going to do, what Fox wants to do with Deadpool right now. I know that they made an announcement that they're going to make another Deadpool, but I think today, because it is kind of a Fox legacy program, I wasn't shocked that we didn't hear much about Deadpool. Although, like I said, when they were talking about Star and accessing the more mature content, I did think we were going to be leading to some kind of an announcement that they're going to, if not merge Hulu and Disney Plus directly, make some of the more adult skewing titles that Marvel particularly Marvel has access to through Fox, available on Disney Plus. They did not do that. We'll see if that is forthcoming. Let's see. NPE 94. Thank you, NPE. Hi, Dan. Love your work. Sadly, I find it hard to get excited about all this, as I fear movie theaters are dead. I fear for movie theaters as well. And the big thing that they kept saying as far as this presentation went with Disney was direct to consumer. We're pushing direct to consumer. The success of all of their streaming programs. There wasn't a whole lot of talk about theatrical today. We will see. I thought that there was going to be much worse news today. If I'm being honest, I thought today was going to be much worse news for movie theaters than it was. I was honestly expecting some kind of an HBO Max type announcement, and we didn't get that. So maybe that rumor was false. Maybe they backed off. We don't know. Jeff Reviews asks, why does Disney hate Tim Blake Nelson? That's a good question. You know, what did Tim Blake Nelson ever do to anybody? They set him up for the leader. He was going to be on, in all of these Hulk movies. They never brought him back. They brought everybody else back. They haven't brought Liv Tyler back quite yet, but they brought William Hurt back. Now they're bringing Tim Roth back. I want to see Tim Blake Nelson as well. He's a great actor. Stephen Corton asks, sorry, Stephen, let me find your comment there. Let's see. Hang on, Steven, I'll find you again. Luke1234 says, loved your RoboCop reviews. It's my favorite film since I was 7. Would you consider doing a review of the franchise? Yeah, as a whole, I think I need to check out some of them, but definitely, I think that's a good idea. Carly Perkins, hi, Carly, says, what are the top 3 movies and top 3 shows you're most anticipating? And do you think doing 10 different Star Wars shows is too much? So yeah, I will use this to pivot over to the Star Wars questions and ask... Mara, can you help me there? I think Steve did a super chat, and I've lost it.
Okay.
It got lost in the shuffle. If you can help me find that, I think it was like a $5 super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. I think they're going to be doing 10 Star Wars series specifically for Disney Plus. Reportedly, Marvel is going to be doing 10 Star Wars series in the future. I think they said Disney and Pixar are going to be working on 15 features exclusively for Disney Plus. So there is a lot going on with streaming and with Disney Plus. But before I get to the rest of your comments, and I see a lot, so thank you so much. I will answer everybody's. I want to talk a little bit about the Star Wars news that was announced today, and there was a lot of it. Kathleen Kennedy came out and did a Lucasfilm presentation. We found out a couple things. Number one, there are several new series on the way, which we knew, but we found out about a few more of them. This isn't everything they announced, but there was one called a droid story that focuses on droids, and it's going to have C-3PO and R2-D2. There is Andor, which is the Cassian Andor series that is the spinoff that is currently in production. They haven't started shooting, but they showed some concept art, and we found out that they are deep into getting that movie, the costumes designed, the sets built, etc. That will start shooting soon. They announced a new animated series, basically a spinoff of the Clone Wars called The Bad Batch, which I am actually watching the Clone Wars right now, the animated series, the Clone Wars. So maybe by the time The Bad Batch comes out, I'll be caught up. That is a big one. They announced that Lando Calrissian will be getting his own Disney Plus original story. But I think the two biggest pieces of news that they announced with respect to Lando were that there are going to be two spinoffs of The Mandalorian. There's going to be Rangers of the New Republic, and then Ahsoka Tano, who just made her debut on The Mandalorian, will be getting her own series. So I think that that's going to be obviously a very anticipated series from a bunch of fans. I hope that doesn't mean that she just kind of popped into Mandalorian and we'll never see her again. Then there was the announcement that Patty Jenkins, who directed Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984, which is coming to your home on Christmas Day, as well as in theaters, is directing a Rogue Squadron movie. It will be the next Star Wars theatrical film. It's not going to hit theaters until 2023, so it's going to be a long time before you see Star Wars on the big screen again, but that will be a Rogue Squadron movie directed by Patty Jenkins. And then a huge piece of casting. The casting was announced that Hayden Christensen will return as, Kathleen Kennedy said as Darth Vader, not as Anakin Skywalker, as Darth Vader in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series starring Ewan McGregor. So that's going to be something else as well. Blacklash 225 asks, rest in peace movie theaters, ? F Time Warner, AT&T. Time will tell. I definitely have a lot of, I'm very scared. I'm very scared about movie theaters. And I hope that there is some brightness on the horizon for them. Let's see. Yes, hon?
By the way, Steve had asked, what were your thoughts on all the Spider-Verse theories?
So Steve asked, what my thoughts are on the Spider-Verse theories. I mean, we're certainly getting a lot of casting rumors that have been rumored for a while. People that have been in talks, things that we've heard. Maybe this person will show up, maybe they won't. I think that some of them have been confirmed. Some of them we're still waiting to hear. I'm a little trepidatious, if I'm being honest. They're adding so much. I mean, we've got Elektra that's been confirmed. We've got Electro. We've got Doc Ock coming back. That's been confirmed. I think Andrew Garfield has been confirmed. Emma Stone is rumored. Tobey Maguire is rumored. I think Kirsten Dunst is confirmed. It's hard to keep track of who's locked in and who's just talking about being in the movie. But I'm really kind of more concerned about what this movie's going to be. There's so much. There's so much going on. I'm intrigued. That's what I'll say. I'm very intrigued about how they're going to pull this all together. Obviously, with the confirmation today that Doctor Strange is going to tie in directly with the Spider-Man movie, and the Doctor Strange movie is about the multiverse, then we'll see. Let's see. Jodester donated just because you're awesome on Streamlabs. Thank you, Jodester. Corey Ross on Streamlabs. Just wanted to shout out to the GOAT, Dan Merle. Dan's Patreon Discord during the investor call is one of the most fun things to happen during this pandemic. If you're on the edge of becoming a patron, it is 100% absolutely worth it. I promise. Thank you, Corey. Yes, we have a great community over on Patreon, and I popped in just ever so briefly during the investor call, and I saw that there were people talking about the news, and it really is a lot of fun to do those things on Patreon. So yes, if you want to check it out, patreon.com/Dan Merle. We'd love to have you over there. It is a great community. Anthony Post asks, what was your favorite announcement made today? Mine has got to be Patty Jenkins becoming the first female director on a Star Wars film, and Hayden Christensen returning with Ewan McGregor in Kenobi. Thanks and happy holidays. Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really, really good announcements that I think are going to lead to some very interesting things. Patty Jenkins doing a Rogue Squadron movie. That's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. That's pretty cool. Especially, I'm glad that there's going to be a bit of a break between Star Wars theatrical films. I wish we weren't in the position where we needed to take that break, but I'm glad that they are doing that. And so that's a good one. I thought that with Marvel, if they can pull off this integration, I think it could be really fun because people can watch at home, they can watch the movies, they can go to the theaters, and it can be this sort of ongoing. We've always said Marvel's a TV show. Now it could literally be just an ever-running TV show if the quality stays up. So that's exciting to me. However, if you hit a bum batch of stuff, then it could really kind of tamp down the overall experience. So if they succeed, I think that's an exciting announcement, but there's a big question about if. Carmina donated and asked, what project within each Disney Plus realm are you most excited for, i.e. Disney, Star Wars, and Marvel? Well, we'll talk about Disney in a second, and then Star Wars, I think it would be Rogue Squadron. Marvel, I think the Loki series is very intriguing to me. They also spoke about Loki a little bit, and the fact that it is going to be, as Kevin Feige described it, a crime thriller series. Also, that we got the confirmation, which we already knew, that this is going to be the Loki that took the Tesseract in Avengers Endgame, but it looks like they're going to play with the idea of time and jumping in and different dimensions, etc. So I think of all the Marvel series, that one to me has got me the most intrigued. And then What If is also a big favorite of mine. Let's see. Poupes, Palps or Poops, I hope, whatever it is, asks thoughts on the announcement that Searchlight Films are apparently going to Hulu, which would include films like Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch. Are they betraying their initial promise not to mess with Fox Searchlight stuff? That is something that was announced today, is that during the Hulu presentation, they said that they're going to double down on their Hulu original films, like Palm Springs, which was not made for Hulu, but was acquired by Hulu. And they said that that would include films from Fox Searchlight and 20th Century Studios. I don't think that means all Fox Searchlight films. I think it probably means a lot of the smaller films. But I think that I think it also means that you're going to see a lot of films that perhaps had a harder time penetrating into the marketplace come out. And that's where I think the double-edged sword of this whole streaming thing is. I don't want to see movies like The French Dispatch or really any movie completely taken out of theaters. But I think if you can come up with an effective strategy that theaters can work with, that people can see them at home, particularly smaller films, I think it can be an effective strategy. I just think that people are being very extreme one way or the other about it. So if they took French Dispatch out of movie theaters completely, I think it would be a bit of a betrayal on the initial promise, particularly with a movie maker like Wes Anderson. But if you're going with a hybrid thing, and I think that you can do it in a little more well thought out way than HBO Max, in my opinion, has done it, then I think that that's a way to go. JD Domash, thank you, JD. I'm excited for Rogue Squadron. Patty Jenkins kind of flew under the radar. Where do you think it's going to take place? Original trilogy or between the sequel trilogy? I mean, I think it'd be kind of cool to see what else was going on during the fight against the Empire that wasn't Luke Skywalker centric. Yeah, I'm going to go with maybe original trilogy. Barno 922, as general manager of a local theater that is closed for good. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so happy Bob did not bury the hatchet in theatrical exhibition. It is hard to go day to day on the news of my career, but today was a good day. Love you, Dan. Your coverage has kept me going. Cheers. I'm first of all very sorry to hear about that. I think that's the downside that isn't considered. A lot of people love the convenience of watching movies at home, but there's an entire exhibition industry that is going to suffer greatly if theaters go away. So I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm happy for you that today was not as bad a day as you may have anticipated. Stacy Morris donated and said, hi, everyone. I just want to say hi and tell everyone to join Patreon, but Corey beat me to it. So hit the like button. Happy Hanukkah to everyone who celebrates the Festival of Lights. It's the night one of Hanukkah. It actually, I hate to say, sorry, Mara, we put off our celebration until after this video. We're going to do it after that.
Did you see I gave you a Hanukkah gift?
Oh, did you?
I did.
Where?
In the chat.
Oh, I didn't. My super chats are disappearing. I may need help tracking to make sure that I get. Apologies if it's a little bit of weird. As I said, we're working out the kinks a little bit here today.
Copying and pasting, you're just not reading.
Thank you. Just some guy donated and said, "Oh, thank you. First of all, met you, Mara, and the Screen Junkies crew at New York Comic Con 2019. Thanks for all the videos and box office stats. I don't know you, but I'm really excited for this Pixar Lightyear movie. Also, kick some butt in the Schmodown hashtag. Big fan. Yeah, let's talk about that." So Pixar announced that they are going to be doing a Buzz Lightyear movie. However, it is not about Tim Allen's Buzz Lightyear. I think I'm describing this accurately. It is about the character of Buzz Lightyear upon which they would have made a toy of Buzz Lightyear. So it's like if the toy character of Buzz Lightyear was based on a fictional character, then this would be the fictional character that the toy was based on. Thank you, hon. I got my Hanukkah gift. Mara left in the super chat. Thank you. So via super chat, just like the Maccabees did it. They left everything in the super chat. So that's an interesting setup. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that are not happy with Tim Allen. And honestly, it's a bit weird to think of Tim Allen not doing the voice of Buzz Lightyear. But you have Chris Evans, who is going to be voicing this character of Buzz Lightyear. It's an interesting way to go. I have to be honest. I think it could be really cool, but how do you... It just took me like 2 minutes to explain it. So I think it might be harder to explain it even to an audience, particularly one that's very loyal to the Tim Allen Buzz Lightyear. So, oh my gosh, I just see super chats disappearing at the top of my Streamlabs page. So I'm going to read a couple that I see right now. Let's see. This one's from Brett. My favorite announcements were about Taika Waititi and Patty Jenkins, Star Wars films, the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, and Lightyear with Chris Evans. So, yeah, we talked about Patty Jenkins. Taika Waititi is still in development on his Star Wars film. So no real news yet on that other than he's still developing it. The next one up will be Patty Jenkins. The Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special is going to be on Disney+. It is going to be filmed at the same time as the next Guardians film, and Kevin Feige said it's going to be released the holiday season before the next Guardians movie is released, and also that James Gunn will write and direct the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. Also, a series of short films with Baby Groot called I Am Groot was announced for Disney+, and then Lightyear with Chris Evans. Let's look at some of these super chats. Stephen Corton, thank you, Stephen. And for a second time, just wanted to say you're the GOAT. Crush Adam Collins. Is the WB HBO Max thing a bad thing? I love it personally. Well, that's the thing is, I've come down pretty negatively on it, and I've done a couple videos, and I've heard a lot of feedback, and I hear you. A lot of people say like, hey, listen, these are rough times, these are tough times. I appreciate being able to see movies at home. I think it's very convenient. I think that it can be a positive thing. I just think that the way that HBO Max has done it, which would be without consulting their theatrical partners, without consulting their filmmakers. And then I think the announcement of doing it all of 2021 versus the first 6 months and perhaps reevaluating, that blunts the impact of giving people an option when we are in such weird times, because we don't know how the rollout's going to be with the vaccines, et cetera. Honestly, I think if HBO Max had spoken to their partners previously and then perhaps had announced that it was going to be for the first 6 months of 2021, even if they had every intention of doing it for the second half of the year, I think my thoughts on it would be different, and I think a lot of other people's would be as well. I think the way in which it was rolled out and how they did it was something that kind of put a lot of people on their heels, myself included. So Nothing Smith asks, what are your thoughts on Disney seeming to make it very clear that all of their tentpole releases will be theatrical? Seems like a jab at WB. That surprised me. I thought they might kind of treat it like the elephant in the room, where they didn't really say whether they were going to be theatrical, but Bob Iger particularly made a point several times of saying that the theatrical business is still a backbone of what they're doing on Disney, and even for movies that go on Disney Plus. Now, they pointed out that they all will eventually arrive on Disney Plus in some way or another, but I actually was shocked as well a little bit that Bob Iger was so openly supportive of the theatrical exhibition business, especially because the rumors were that it was going to be the opposite. So in many ways, Disney is the industry leader in a lot of ways, and they're now the streaming leader. And so for them to be the leader in streaming and still support in some way the theatrical exhibition business, I think if you are in that business, then you like what you heard today, because they really could have dug the grave just a little bit more. Carter Lovejoy asks, for a while I was hoping for a Star Wars anime anthology film or series similar to the Animatrix, and I'm glad that's what's happening with Visions. That's a Star Wars project that I didn't mention, is that there is going to be an animated series on Disney Plus called Star Wars Visions, which is basically, like you said, the Animatrix, short animated films from different directors. And that is, I think that's a great way. And there's so much that they're investing in. And even though it's mostly streaming, I think that it's still a really, really fun time for fans, because you're getting all kinds of different Star Wars stuff. Let's talk about some of these other things that Disney announced. First of all, Disney Animation, who has largely stayed out of making their own original animated series. There have been plenty of Disney animated series, but they don't usually come directly from Walt Disney Animation. They announced that they're actually developing several for Disney Plus. Baymax would be one of them, which is an original animated series around Baymax from Big Hero 6. Chippendale Rescue Rangers. It's not an original animated series. It's actually going to be a film, but that is going to be directed by Akiva Schaffer with Andy Samberg and John Mulaney doing the voices of Chip and Dale. That sounds like a really interesting thing. But looping back to the original animated films that Disney Animation is going to produce, there's one for Moana a musical animated series that they're going to be developing. There is an original animated series, Tiana, based off of Princess Tiana from The Princess and the Frog. That is another one that Disney is going to be developing exclusively for Disney Plus. And then there's going to be a series called Zootopia Plus, which takes place in and around the world of Zootopia, which is going to be developed exclusively for Disney Plus. So I think that it is a bit of a sea change in that you're seeing Disney reallocate their resources and have these departments do things that none of them have done before. We're going to talk when we talk about Pixar. Pixar is also for the first time developing multiple original animated series for Disney Plus. So we are really seeing an allocation of resources. And I think that may be where the bigger sea change is. It's not necessarily in Disney taking all of their things out of theaters. It's taking the vast resources they have at their disposal and reallocating those to making things specifically for these different streaming services. If they're not features, then they're original series, etc. And that is a real big shift that they're making. Jody, thank you again, asks, that hint that Kevin Feige gave about anyone showing up on She-Hulk, do you think he was hinting at Daredevil? Okay, I'm back on Marvel. I think yes. I think that he was very much hinting at Daredevil. He brought in the idea of superheroes practicing law, that anyone could show up. There have been rumors, who knows, that Daredevil's going to show up in the Spider-Man movie. It seems like everybody's going to be in the Spider-Man movie, but I think it is. I think that was a very hefty rumor. And Kevin Feige, I've made fun of him on multiple times. He almost laughably parses what he says to be very cryptic and to not give anything away. So I don't think that Kevin Feige would ever drop a hint like that if there wasn't something about what was going on. NPE 94, I see, is asked, sorry, one more question. Is Rian Johnson's Star... First of all, I have to apologize. Thank you for the donation. Sorry, one more question. Is Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy officially kaput? I think that's a great question because it certainly was not mentioned today. And they've talked about pausing their development. The Obi-Wan series, for example, was something that was originally a feature, is now a limited series for Disney Plus. So I think the fact that they did not mention Rian Johnson's sequel trilogy, I'm not going to say it's kaput, but I will say that it was conspicuously absent. And I think that Benioff and Weiss had already dropped out because they were supposedly going to be developing Star Wars movies as well. But yeah, theatrical is obviously not going to be the focus for Star Wars for the near future. And it looks like, if I were reading the tea leaves, the only two Star Wars movies you should definitely count on seeing at any time in the near future are from Patty Jenkins and Taika Waititi, and we have a date on one of those. Taika's still working on his. DCP asks, since watching Mandalorian, I'm more excited for Star Wars than Marvel 2021. I mean, that's the Mandalorian. I really think has revitalized the Star Wars enthusiasm so much more than can be said. There's so much enthusiasm around Star Wars now, and I think that's one reason why they were able to make such a big splashy rollout today. Is enthusiasm around Star Wars had kind of been at a low when you go back to, it was definitely hit a fever pitch with The Force Awakens. I think that some people liked Rogue One. Some people didn't like it, but I don't think it was massively unpopular. Then you had a very divisive reaction to The Last Jedi. You had a largely negative or apathetic reaction to Solo. You had a largely negative, mixed, I think would be kind, reaction to The Rise of Skywalker. So the fact that The Mandalorian is so popular, when we look back on the history of Star Wars, if it reaches those heights again, I think that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and everyone that's worked on The Mandalorian, all those great directors, Pedro Pascal and the entire cast who have been so great, are going to be key players in keeping that franchise alive, because it was not doing well. Blacklash 225 asks, Mara's the best. How's my spelling? She's the best. Your spelling looks great. Thank you.
Bravo.
Yeah. Stephen Corton, thank you. Here's more money. Hayden Christensen news. I love it. This may be his redemption. I love a good redemption story. I have been as hard on Hayden Christensen in the prequels as anybody else. I think part of it is because the prequels came out from 1999 to 1995. I was 16 to 22 years old when those, what did I say, 1995? Yeah. Sorry, 1999 to 2005. It's like Tenet. It goes back in time. The prequels came out backwards. No, 1999 to 2005. So I was 16 to 22 years old. I was at my snarkiest. And so I think that carried over a little bit into my adult life, but also time heals all wounds. And I think that I've always been a fan of Hayden Christensen outside of the Star Wars films. His movie Shattered Glass, I think he's brilliant in that movie. So if they're able to pull something off special, really special with the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, and we are able to get a great coda to this character, he's able to give us a really great performance, and I know that he can, or they use that character and do something actually very interesting with him, then I would love to see that little bit of redemption, because I don't necessarily think that it would change my opinion on the prequels themselves, but I would love to see him kind of bask in the glow of being in Star Wars, which I don't necessarily think that he got to do when it came out. Let me see. Let's look at Streamlabs. I want to make sure that I'm not neglecting anything here. Let's see. Just some guy. We talked about that. Okay. No, it doesn't look like I've missed anything there. Oh, thank you. Mara's got a few things for me. I'm going to refresh that too to make sure that I'm not missing anything. No, okay, looks like I'm good. Let's see. Alec B. Thank you, Alec. Daredevil and Spider-Man 3 makes sense. Into Far From Home, Peter is outed as Spider-Man. He needs a legal defense. Who better than Matt Murdock? I mean, I agree. I would love to see it. My only question with that always was that Disney and Marvel have always kind of pretended like Daredevil doesn't exist because it was sort of on Netflix Island. And it's so much grittier and with such a harder edge than the rest of the films that I was always wondering if they would acknowledge that they existed, even though Daredevil and those shows definitely acknowledged that the other Marvel movies existed. So I love Charlie Cox, and I would love for him to be able to come back as Daredevil. I wouldn't want him to come back watered down. I would hope that they could figure out a way to keep that show and its edge, but it definitely makes sense, and I'd love to have him in it. My question has always just been, how do those two tones fit together, and can they pull it off in the film? Let me talk. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Krista R. Thank you, Krista asks, Dan, with all this Star Wars and Marvel news, let's not bury the lead. What in the world is up with the Mighty Ducks and Turner and Hooch news? That's right. We found out today that there are Disney Plus original series, live action series in the works for the Mighty Ducks, which we knew. It is shocking. And I haven't seen Emilio Estevez in a long time since he was on my whiteboard winning me a Schmodown championship. But I haven't seen Emilio Estevez in anything for a while. It's shocking to me how much he looks and sounds like Martin Sheen, his father, at this point. I was more than shocked, but you know, that looks cute. And then we have Turner and Hooch, which is a live action series based on the Tom Hanks movie of the same name. And I think they're reviving 3 Men and a Baby is coming back. They revive. Let's see. What all did I write down? There's so many things that they're making new versions of. There's 3 Men and a Baby. There's Turner and Hooch. There is Cheaper by the Dozen. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, a animated version. Hocus Pocus 2 was announced. There's a new Ice Age film, Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, which is a spinoff with Simon Pegg's character. There's a Night at the Museum animated series or movie. As I mentioned, there's the 3 Men and a Baby. Is that the one with Zac Efron attached? Zac Efron was attached to one of them. I think it might have been 3 Men and a Baby, but I'm not entirely sure. Also, a big news for some folks that I know really, really enjoy this movie is that they announced that there's going to be a sequel to Enchanted with Amy Adams, who's going to be returning for a sequel called Disenchanted. So the 90s and 80s nostalgia, I think, is a great question, because who are they trying to win over? Like, people my age, a lot of them have kids. Are they trying to win over their kids using the nostalgia from when I was a kid? Or are they, because Turner and Hooch, let's be honest, is not necessarily a blockbuster franchise. I don't hear the name Turner and Hooch mentioned all the time. All I can think of is that they make a Turner and Hooch show. Guys like me who have kids recognize the name. They put their kids in front of Turner and Hooch, and now you've reinvented the thing for a whole new generation. Cameron Andrews, thank you, Cameron, asks, I am excited for Rangers of the New Republic, and I hope the starring characters are Carson and Dave Filoni's characters from Mandalorian. Yeah, I mean, that's I think that's the one that I have the least amount of a handle on as far as Rangers of the New Republic, because it could go several different ways. And Ahsoka Tano, obviously, you know which way that's going to go. But the idea that you are exploring the intricacies of the New Republic is something that I'm actually kind of really drawn to. That's what I loved about The Mandalorian, first of all, which is you're going into, like, we know what happens on a galactic scale. What happens on a planetary scale? What happens in the dive bars in the middle of nowhere in a nothing planet? That's what I like. And so the idea that you could be taking that and saying, like, you know, what's it like out on the beat? or what's it like with these small scale conflicts? I think that's why Rangers of the New Republic could be a really interesting show, but it's also one that I have the least amount of a handle on right now. Let's see. Josh Mabry. Thank you, Josh. Will Blade be PG-13, and do you think that will hurt? Also, are we going to get another famous Shia LaBeouf movie fights rant before or after release? I think that, I'm guessing they mean Indiana Jones, perhaps. I think with Blade, if we're being honest, it's probably going to be PG-13. I really have a hard time believing under the MCU banner, under the Marvel Studios banner, that they're going to make a hard R movie. However, I also think that because you're dealing with vampires, when you think about the violence that happens in a lot of the Avengers movies, it's pretty horrific. It's just that the things that you're shooting are like aliens or robots and stuff. I think with vampires, they could probably come up with a way to dispatch them that is not gruesome, but that would allow you to do the Blade-like things of,
I mean, a lot of it's just limiting blood effects.
Yeah, limit blood effects. Now, can he say, some motherfucker's always trying to ice skate uphill? No, he can't. Not in a PG-13 movie. But that might be something that we have to accept with our Blade film, is that there's going to be some edges sanded off. I think Mahershala Ali is going to make a great Blade. I'd be intrigued if it was rated R. I'm not advocating against it. I just don't see it happening. Corey Ross asks, I know it's slightly off topic, but have you seen Denis Villeneuve ripping AT&T to shreds on Variety yet? I have not. I'm not shocked. Do you think WB could have a director's boycott on their hands because of their hybrid model? I knew that there were reports that Denis Villeneuve was not happy with AT&T about the direction. I did not know that he had spoken publicly about it, but I'm really not surprised when you think about a movie like Dune, or really what in his filmography made you think he would be okay with that. And that's my big thing with their move, is I don't think that it was well thought out. And I don't think that I think you could definitely have a director's strike or a director's boycott of the studio, because it's not just that they took a move in negotiation. It's the fact that they produced films, they signed deals with directors under a certain assumption or a certain guarantee. And then without consulting them, they changed they've altered the deal. That's usually a Disney thing. But I could see them having trouble if this is not resolved, if this does not turn out to be a one-year experiment like they say it's going to be. I could see them having a difficult time attracting directors, or losing directors like Nolan and Villeneuve that have already worked with them and resent what they did. Abraxas Z. Oh, are you one of the Abraxas siblings from Jupiter Ascending? That's a cool name, Abraxas. I wish that movie had been cooler. Thank you, Abraxas. Do you think inflation will eventually render movies too expensive to produce? I think that you will definitely see movie budgets come down for a variety of reasons. I think, number one, you're going to see technology, conversely, as it gets more sophisticated, I think the budget's going to come down. Kathleen Kennedy talked about I think it's called the light stage technology that they use on The Mandalorian, where they shoot it against a video backdrop that is a practical effect. You get it in camera, but it looks like a photoreal background, that they're going to be building more of those around the world. I think that you will see production values stay the same, but I actually think you're going to see budgets go down because, number one, it's going to be easier to get that filmic look without the expense of going on location or expensive post-production CG graphics. You can do things like the light stage technology. But I also think that you're going to see studios, particularly as they put their own films onto their own streaming services and give up a lot of that revenue, they're going to have to find ways to get thrifty. So I think that you're going to see fewer $200 million budgeted films, but I also don't think that the production value necessarily is going to suffer. I think that people are going to start using technology in different ways. Carly asked, thank you, Carly. If you could watch 3 of the announced shows or movies immediately, which 3 would you pick to watch? Oh, man. Okay. I think that I would watch the Obi-Wan Kenobi show because, first of all, I like Ewan McGregor. I've loved what they've done so far with all of the Star Wars stuff. And I am curious about what they're going to do with all of the Darth Vader and Hayden Christensen, and how do you bring that back? Because it seemed like they hadn't really met each other in the Star Wars trilogy and A New Hope for a while, but what's going on there? Do they actually come face to face, or is it about, I've always said, I like this idea of Darth Vader searching the galaxy for, he doesn't know he's got a son, but, getting a rumor or something. I don't know. I think you could do something interesting, but I don't know. It could go either way. So Obi-Wan Kenobi would be one of them. I know that nobody else really cares about it, but I would watch the What If series because I just love those comic books so much. And it looked like they even gave a little bit of a preview of what looked to be like a Marvel Zombies storyline with Captain America there. So I'm just curious about what are the different scenarios that they are going to throw out there. And then for the third one, if I could watch right now, I think it'd be the Noah Hawley Alien series because I'm just curious about what they're going to do. How are they going to do this universe, especially when it's set on Earth? I think I saw a couple of Streamlabs come in, so I just want to make sure that I don't neglect those. JD Domash says, Happy Hanukkah from your fellow Jewish patron. Thank you, JD. I'm also very intrigued by Star Wars Acolyte, set in the High Republic, the canon version of the Old Republic. Yeah, I mean, the High Republic is something that Star Wars has been rolling out and is going to be rolling out. So we are going back to this Old Republic ways, and are they going to bring in stuff? They haven't really seemed that reticent to bring in stuff from the older, I guess now they're the Legends canon, but what are they going to do as they go backwards in that timeline? Barno 922, sorry Dan, broke AF as previously mentioned. That's all right. I appreciate what you did, Barno. Thank you. The theatrical experience is something that will never be recreated. On your left, Han Solo meeting is in, midnight previews. I met my wife. Movies are one of life's true magic. Wear a mask, share love. I agree. I agree with you there that yes, movies, I don't think you can replace. I understand that there is going to be some replacement of film, but I don't think you can ever truly replicate it. And I don't think it goes away. And it's certainly, I've shared a lot of magical moments in a movie theater as well. I just don't think you can replace that experience. So yes, please wear a mask, share some love. Both of those things are going to help people get through this. Wearing a mask, and also just sharing a kind moment with a stranger, because everybody's going through something differently, and some people have it worse than others, but we're all going through something pretty crappy right now. So be nice, share some love, share some kindness. D-Train says, is summer 2021 the end of COVID? Will we actually see Black Widow in May? I don't know. I would hope so. It would be great if the vaccine came and everyone was able to get it quickly. Thank you, hon. And we could just all go to the movies in May. I think we're going to see Black Widow in May. I'm going to make the prediction that we're going to see it, but I won't make the prediction how. I think that Disney's not reckless enough to sort of do what AT&T did, which is to just make this unilateral move. But I think if there are vaccination issues or there is still a high infection rate, I do think that Disney is going to go to the theaters and work out something with them, and that Black Widow would be a hybrid release like they've done or like they're planning to do with some of the other films. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that, yes, you are going to see Black Widow in May, but I don't know if summer 2021 is going to be the end of COVID. And I think that there's a very good possibility that we may see kind of a Disney Premier Access thing if infection rates aren't great. But Disney, their release schedule is so interlocked that I don't think that they can keep pushing things back. Jackson Barber asks, thank you, Jackson. If there's a Rogue Squadron movie and Luke and Wedge were vital members / leaders of Rogue Squadron, does that mean we'll see Luke and Wedge? Sebastian Stan is Luke. Who is Wedge? I don't think it means we'll see Luke and Wedge. That may be the one argument for not putting it right as the Star Wars trilogy is happening. Although, to be fair, Luke Skywalker was running off doing a lot of stuff during the original trilogy where he was not with Rogue Squadron. I mean, he pretty much left him through all of Empire Strikes Back, and who knows what was going on with Return of the Jedi. So Wedge could be a character that I could see that you could potentially recast and find somebody for, but I wouldn't be, I don't think you're going to see Luke Skywalker as the lead of that show. Maybe not. Palps asks, the people demand a Mank review. I know, that's the thing. This is what keeps happening is I'm getting ready to do I was doing a Mank review. It was going to go out in that last week, and then HBO Max made their big announcement. And then I've got charts on Monday. Today we had this investor day. We've got Mandalorian tonight, but there is going to be a Mank review. I promise you it is. I'm actually kind of glad that I have a little bit more time to chew on it, but I promise you there's going to be a Mank review 100%. Constance Lewis asks, thank you, Constance. I'm happy about Chadwick Boseman not being recast. Do you have any thoughts? I think that that's the way to go. I think that first of all, he was so great in that role. It'd be very hard to find a replacement, and trying to replace him even within 2 or 3 years of his death, I think would be just not fair to the actor that they brought in. I think that there is a deep enough bench and a deep enough world and a very rich and vibrant world that you can do Black Panther 2 and figure out a way to not recast T'Challa. It was not a solo film. I mean, he was certainly the lead, but there are so many great warriors in Wakanda and people that you can bring in that however they decide to whomever's going to take up the mantle of Black Panther, or if they go a different direction, I think you have an embarrassment of riches with that universe. And so I think that was the right move. And I'm glad that that's the way that they went. Jeskuo asks, $5, no comment, just a donation. Thank you so much. Bust One asks, Disney has 80 million subscribers off of one show and a library. Pretty crazy. One major show. They don't need to sacrifice box office money. WB needed to do something desperately. So that is definitely one way of looking at it. Was WB does not have, they have HBO Max, which the launch has been okay, according to who you listen to. The big problem is it's kind of hard to tell because HBO Max ties in with some people who already have HBO and how many people are just subscribed to the streaming service. I'm sure the cost is different depending on if they're still paying a cable provider and watching the streaming service. So you're right. Disney Plus is the huge monster King Kong in the room. They are the 800-pound gorilla of streaming services right now. And so while Disney doesn't necessarily need to make up losses from the box office, the company in general, I would say, does need to make up a lot of revenue shortfalls because Warner Brothers doesn't have a huge theme park chain that's been closed down for a year either. So I think that Disney also has some revenue challenges that Warner Brothers and AT&T don't have. However, you're right. In the entertainment space, they're much better positioned because they have an incredibly successful streaming service that, by the way, if you didn't notice, they announced today, will be going up by $1 here domestically next year.
And so, €2.
And €2 in other markets. Jody Harkavy. Jody, thank you. Geez. I think I'm very excited about the Loki show. It seems like Loki is going to be dragged into many investigations, whether he wants to or not. That's what I liked about the description of the show was that Kevin Feige described it as a crime thriller, which I think is going to be fun. Looking at the TVA, which is something that's mentioned in the trailer, that's from the comics, and it's this
it is not the Tennessee Valley.
It's not the Tennessee Valley Authority, no, but it's this agency that kind of deals with people who are messing around with time. And so I like the idea that, like, yes, Loki is he did take the Tesseract and he's gonna, jump around, but there are people that are out there watching and there are people that are out there enforcing this. And I think it adds a new dimension, no pun intended, to what you can do. And so I like the idea of a crime thriller and sort of taking the brakes off of Loki and taking him away from Thor and really just letting him do what he's going to do. Rush Sherman asks, super excited for Christian Bale playing Gore the God Butcher in Thor. Yes, Christian Bale as a bad guy in the Thor film. I think that he's so dour in a lot of his roles and also a lot of his leaked recordings. And I think that if you give him a chance to do something, I mean, he's having fun in American Psycho. That is not a fun role, but he as an actor is having a good time playing that role. So I think that's a great move. And I think that as an actor, he really could show us a side that we haven't seen. I hope that it's not a Malekith type villain where you don't bring in a Christian Bale, hopefully, to sort of glower and say the same lines. And I don't think Taika Waititi is going to write a movie like that. I think that we're all going to see a different side of Christian Bale that we don't see too often. And I'm looking forward to it. I was very happy to hear that as well. Somebody asks, $10, are super chats a burden? There are channels I watch that don't read them, and I'm not going to lie, it hurts. Thank you, Steven. It hurts. Thanks for the awesome content. Sorry for saying content. Are they a burden? Well, listen, Steven, here's what I know and kind of what I don't know is, even though I started the channel about 8 months ago now, I'm still in many ways new to a lot of how YouTube works now. And so this is really only my second time. Actually, no, the first time that I did this, I couldn't even do super chats because I don't think the channel is monetized yet. I could be wrong. So this is my first time really working with super chats. And so, I don't think they're a burden. Now, I apologize because I'm definitely jumping around a little bit. And so I'm probably a little more scattered. I'll get the system down, but I just am really appreciative that in this time where so many people are going through a lot of things, that there are folks out there like you and everybody who's asked a question today that are willing to engage and support in that manner what I'm doing.
We have almost 1,900 watching right
1,900
now. So
watching it.
thank you
Yeah,
to
like
everyone for just watching.
exactly. Like, first of all, even if you're not sending in a super chat, if you're watching this video right now, every set of eyeballs I have on this video is helpful. So I would never say that super chats are a burden, because it's just another way to engage with you who are watching, and I appreciate that you're willing to pony up and ask the questions. So no, they're not a burden to me. I worry that I'm a burden just because I'm still jumping around like crazy looking at how to read these things, but I'll get better at that, I promise. The Age of Me asks, wow, thank you. That is so generous. Thank you so much.
It moved. It was animated.
It has a little gift that says goal. Thank you so much. I don't recall getting Avatar news. There was none. I imagine Disney wants that to be a big franchise, possibly replacing Star Wars. So where's the news? That's a great question, because I do feel like it felt like with New Mutants, that New Mutants was kind of the awkward person that was brought in, like wasn't invited to the party. And so Disney didn't really support it. And then, yeah, Avatar, you would think Disney would make announcements about that. It could be that, number one, there's not really much to say. The movie has been in production for, and I checked this before I came on the air, 19 years. So it could just be that there's nothing new to say about it. But also it's a Fox thing, and they're very excited about their things, their shows, even if it's a Fox property. Like Alien is a Fox property, but the FX show, that's their show. That's it's not something that's an inherited thing. So it's something that we kind of have seen a little bit with this acquisition, which is that on a corporate level, Disney seems much more involved and enthused about their projects, meaning the ones that they developed or the ones that are following on the things they already owned, than the legacy things that they inherited from other studios. So I don't know. I think it maybe was just kind of the odd duck out on this one. They just didn't know what to say or what news to give, because it's a Fox thing. It's not a Disney thing. And it was very much a Disney day. Even if they mentioned, Searchlight and 20th Century Studios, it was Disney Plus and all of their associated brands. So let's look at some of the other things that they announced today that I haven't talked about. Disney, as I mentioned, we talked about Chippendale. Their next animated film, there'll be Raya the Dragon that comes out. It's going to be a hybrid release next year, early in 2021, on the Premiere Access, which is the pay to watch at home, and in theaters. But they announced that their 60th animated film will be a musical film called Encanto, which is set in Colombia. It's going to have a performance by and music from Lin-Manuel Miranda. So we found out what the 60th Disney animated feature film will be. They name-checked The Little Mermaid, which we already knew about. They name-checked Peter Pan and Wendy from the director of Pete's Dragon, which we already knew about. Pinocchio, starring Tom Hanks. I'd heard that he was going to play Geppetto. I don't remember knowing that Robert Zemeckis was attached to direct that, but there is going to be a live-action version of Pinocchio that will be coming from Disney in the near future. Let's see what else. Tiana, I mentioned. Yeah, I think that was the main stuff coming from Disney. As far as Lucasfilm goes, we talked about all of the Star Wars stuff pretty much. There is an original project that they're doing called Children of Blood and Bone, which is kind of their effort to branch out a little more from their legacy brands. They're only known for a few things right now. They're looking to do more stuff under the Lucasfilm banner. Indiana Jones also, they mentioned Indiana Jones, James Mangold directing. I believe they confirmed that this will be the last film in the Indiana Jones series, at least starring Harrison Ford, which quite frankly, that decision is going to be out of their hands very soon, because time is just going to decide that at some point, if not Indiana Jones or Harrison Ford himself as Indiana Jones. So a little bit of just keeping that project alive. And then they mentioned that Willow is still happening. Over on the Marvel side, I think I pretty much hit the major announcements that they had. They talked about Ironheart. They talked about all of that. Let's see, Blacklash 225. More Mara is the best. Thank you, Blacklash. She is indispensable helping me keep all this straight. I would be lost without her. Not just on the air, off the air as well. Corey Ross asks, I know you haven't watched Rebels yet, but if Ahsoka is a backdoor sequel to Rebels, it is going to be oh so glorious. Definitely need to watch it after Clone Wars. That is on our list. We're still pretty early in Clone Wars, but we watched actually the episode last night where they go on the rescue mission to get R2-D2, and Ahsoka Tano fights General Grievous. Mm-hmm. And I was watching, I was like, oh wow. This is pretty cool. And I've heard that it gets cooler from here, but that was very fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to more of that. Josh Mabry asks, at one point, Star Wars fans were complaining about getting too much Star Wars. After today, they're as excited as am I. Thoughts? I think, and I talked about this with Star Wars fatigue. I think that my big thing was that with a Star Wars movie coming out every single year, it started to feel a little samey because the movies were not really branching too far beyond what we know. We had Rogue One, which was tied directly into A New Hope. We had Solo, which was tied directly into Han Solo. We had the episodic films, which continued the Skywalker, Solo, Palpatine story, etc. That's what really started to get fatiguing for me. What I like about what they've announced with Star Wars is, number one, you have the proof of concept with The Mandalorian, which has shown us that with a great creative team, that we now know that, yes, you can expand the Star Wars brand and show that there are interesting stories to tell that don't have to do with Solo and Skywalker, that you can still tie it into canon and yet still be interesting on its own. So The Mandalorian being great has a lot to do with that. If The Mandalorian wasn't great, I don't think a lot of people would be very excited about some of the stuff that we're getting. I also think that you're reviving a lot of stuff like Clone Wars, which was largely considered dead 2 or 3 years ago, was revived for its final season, and you now have Ahsoka Tano revived as a character, and now more going on with her. So all of the people that were fans of Clone Wars, I think, are now saying like, oh, great, we can continue that. So I think it's a combination of branching out more from the main storyline, which I think is great, and I think they should have done a long time ago. And I think it's also that we have seen now that there is a greatness in Star Wars that extends just from that one line. And so the complaints about too much Star Wars, and I was one of them for me, from 2 or 3 years back, really came from the fact that I felt the movies were feeling kind of stale. We've just gotten this breath of fresh air. And so I think that people are excited for potentially more of that. Now, if all these shows are not great, then I think you're going to see some complaints about Star Wars fatigue again. Also, these projects are not going to be all stacked one on top of the other. They're going to come out, a few years apart. Nathan Taylor asks, I just wanted to say that I enjoyed the Die Hard video. Thank you. My podcast, All My Movies, you can check that out over on the Schmodown Entertainment Network. Also downloadable as a podcast. We did Die Hard this week. So we were talking about it's a great movie and why it's a Christmas movie. Stephen Corton, thank you, Stephen. It wasn't you. It's other channels that don't read them and F them as far as I'm concerned. Well, Stephen, I don't know about that, but I try to read all of them that I can. So I appreciate that. Let's see. Ethan Puente says, love your channel and everything you do online. Live long and prosper. Thank you, the GOAT. Thank you so much, Ethan. Dallin Rowell, apologies if I didn't get your name right. Looks like my super chat might have disappeared, but you're the best, Dan, and I am the most hyped for Willow. Who else would you? Oh, sorry, what was the end of that question? Huh? I'm sorry. Who else would you like in it? Sorry about that. Yes, I will. I'm going to try to get better at making sure they don't disappear. Willow is a movie that I saw when I was a kid. I've never been really strongly attached to it, but that's one where I'm just going to kind of wait and see because I don't have a big, huge love for Willow like so many other people do. But I think that you certainly could be an interesting story. If you want to go in a different direction. I don't know. It's I always feel bad because people are like, oh, you were born in 1983. You must love Willow. I think it's all right, but I certainly understand why people are very excited about it because that is one of the few things from Lucasfilm that has not been mined. There's one movie and that's it. So a lot of interesting places that you could go with Willow. There was one thing I wanted to mention before we get to the other super chats. There is a National Geographic.
Yes.
National Geographic. Mara was very excited by this too. National Geographic announced a few different shows and movies, etc. There was one called Limitless with Chris Hemsworth where he pushes his body to its limits, which I guess is like, hey, dudes, do you feel inadequate next to Chris Hemsworth? Because you're about even more so. That's what that one's about. Plus, I'm going to watch it because I think Chris Hemsworth is awesome. But there is, I think they must have started this and worked backwards. There is a show starring Will Smith. It's a documentary show. Darren Aronofsky, who's actually doing both the Chris Hemsworth show and the Will Smith show. What a weird career turn I would not have called. Will Smith is doing a show called Welcome to Earth on National Geographic. So I have to wonder, they must have started from the title and gone backwards. They're like, we want to do a show with Will Smith. What do we call it? We call it Welcome to Earth. They're like, that's hilarious. What's the show? And then they have to figure it out. So I love that Will Smith is going to be in a show called Welcome to Earth. Let's see. I'm going to talk about Pixar real quick, but I want to make sure I get to Eddie Pavisic asks, "You're the best. How about that Owen Wilson look?" I like. He's looking aged a little bit, but I like it.
He looks like Howard Stark.
He does look a little bit like Howard Stark. I was digging it. I'm digging like middle management Owen Wilson. Corey Ross, thank you, Corey, says, "I think Disney shut up the you don't have enough content on Disney Plus crowd today. Feels like 60 plus titles." It is weird to see all of this stuff announced today. And remember that the big criticism on this last year was that there was nothing on Disney Plus. Well, there's about to be a lot on Disney Plus. Avril Flayton asks, "Where did you buy your Baby Yoda doll and for how much? It's really the best one I've seen." Oh, thank you. That is, we've got another one too. It's kind of a funny story. When The Mandalorian came out, we obviously were big fans of the child of Baby Yoda. And so when they announced that they were selling, because they didn't sell them before the show came out because they wanted that reveal to be a surprise. So when they announced that they were selling the toys or the dolls, I immediately bought one for Mara for Christmas/Hanukkah last year. And
well, this is the one that came.
Right. So
a picture of that one came.
So there was two. I pre-ordered one, and then there was, for some reason, I canceled that order and did a different order. I'm not sure why. And so I canceled that one, and then I ordered another one, but the first one still came. But the first one was this one,
which is cute,
which is really cute, and that's the one I gave her. And it's cute. But then the other order, which was never canceled,
out of nowhere, just shows up.
Yeah, we weren't expecting, and it's that one. And so, like, I opened the box. I was like, "Oh my god, honey!"
I opened the box.
Oh, did you?
We were keeping it.
Yeah.
And I told you I didn't care if you had already paid for it. It was mine.
Yeah, I think it was that I bought it, and then they went on sale, and then I got it again, but the other one didn't cancel. But we ended up keeping both. So
something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But Disney, I guess, is the answer.
Mirai, is that Miral Gandhi? Thank you, Miral. Asked 1,913 viewers and only 600 likes. Like the video, thank you. I appreciate that. Carly asks $9.99. Last super chat before I go to bed. Thank you, Carly. I appreciate that. Well, I always love talking to you on Patreon as well. Loved you talking Die Hard on the podcast. If I wasn't watching for Dan's Movie Club already, you would have convinced me to watch for the first time. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Carly. Yes, that's one thing that we do over on the Patreon is I do my monthly movie club. So you can, if you want to join that as well, we're doing Christmas movies. I let the patrons pick this week, or this month. Neither year, week. It is month. And they chose. What commentary did we just put up the other day? Well, the other day we put up a commentary for Home Alone.
You don't remember?
I don't remember. And then the patron choice movies for our movie club this month were Die Hard, Muppet Christmas Carol, and the Klaus on Netflix. So we're going to be talking about those. So we'd love to have you join us. Elizabeth Gasca, thank you. Elizabeth asks, "I was shocked and delighted that they mentioned they're making a Children of Blood and Bone series. Was there an announcement that surprised you?" I'm trying to think. I was a little surprised. I probably shouldn't have been, that Miss Marvel was joining Captain Marvel 2 right off the bat. Well, I thought that they might let her kind of be in her own series and maybe spin off on her own movie. So the fact that she was automatically joining that cast surprised me. I'm trying to think if there was another one that the Lightyear thing. The Lightyear thing is really weird. Like, I was really caught off because when they said Lightyear, I'm like, oh, Buzz is getting his own Toy Story movie. But the fact that it's not at all Buzz Lightyear, and that's weird. I gotta say, that's weird. I want to talk about Pixar real quick because there were a couple of things I didn't mention. There was Lightyear. There is Soul, which is coming out at Christmas on Disney Plus. Then the film after Soul is Luca, which is set in Italy, which it looked really beautiful, as Pixar movies always do. And then they announced their one after that is called Turning Red, which is from the director of Bao, which was a great animated short. I think it won the Academy Award. So the director of that film, they gave her own Pixar film called Turning Red. It's about a girl who, when she gets upset, turns into a red panda.
Or like excited, I think.
Excited, yeah, excited. Like they said the Incredible Hulk, but cuter. Yes. But she turns into a red panda. So I think that's fun. I like that. And then there's an interesting concept, Win or Lose, which is Pixar's doing an original series, 3 of them actually, for Disney Plus. They're doing Doug Days, the Up spinoff. They're doing the Cars show, and then they're doing one called Win or Lose, which is all set in the same week, and they call it a long form series, which is 20 plus minutes, and it's about a high school volleyball team and it's kind of a Rashomon type thing where
Mhm.
it's set that each episode is the same week, but they're all from the perspective of a different character. And so each time you see an episode, it's telling it from someone else's perspective. So I guess the surprise there for me was that with Pixar keeping their quality level so high in 2 movies a year, most years, that they're going to be doing an original long form series exclusively for Disney Plus. But also that idea, I think, is really interesting idea. So that was very surprising to me. Let's see if there's anything else that I didn't mention. I think that pretty much does it.
Some stuff for
Do we have some stuff? Yeah, let's catch up.
I have all the stuff.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here. If you want to send in a super chat, send them in right now. But I think after this batch goes through, I'll keep going until the super chats run out. So we'll wrap it up after that because I think I've covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover from today. Thanura Ravindra asks, I just want a Knights of the Old Republic movie starring oh boy, is it Revan or Revan? Let's see, I got to get better. I got to get better at the Star Wars stuff. But Knights of the Old Republic is something that I thought they might announce today, and they've done a similar announcement, but not actually Knights of the Old Republic. I apologize on all pronunciation fronts there. Let's see, David Chen. David Chen says, "Hi Dan, shout out from a Taiwan filmmaker here. Your charts and other content has helped me a lot professionally. Please keep up the good work." Thanks, David. Thank you for watching. Let's see, NPE94. Thank you again. Can streaming services justify throwing money around forever, or will the need for profit result in them tightening up in the future? No, they can't justify throwing money around forever. And I think right now, the reason it seems like they all are doing it is because other than Netflix, they're all pretty much launching. Even Hulu, which has been around for a while, is kind of Hulu 2.0 at this point. So no, they can't justify throwing all this money around forever. Even AT&T, which is investing heavily in HBO Max, they're selling Crunchyroll to Funimation. So the fact that they're divesting themselves of these assets shows that at some point the bottom line has to win out. Now, they most definitely go very heavily into debt to get these things launched, but there is going to be a point, and we even saw it with Netflix, where for a while they were making everything, and then they started to be much more tactical and strategic about what shows they kept and what shows they didn't keep. There is a point where the bottom line has to win out because you do have investors, and they eventually want a company that's going to make a profit or that has divisions that turn a profit. So I think you're going to see this kind of reckless, or whatever you want to call it, spending for a while. But if things lag or are not what they want them to be, these streaming services are at a certain point going to have to be much more thrifty because they're going to have to start making money eventually. Let's see. Corey, thank you again. Can we talk about Iwaju, the Afrofuture sci-fi show? Yes. I thought this was a really good story, and I hadn't actually heard about this. This was something that they talked about with the Disney animation during the Disney animation presentation. I thought I got a screen cap of that. Maybe I didn't. But there was basically an animation studio based out of Africa that had said, "Hey, Disney Animation, we're going to come and we're going to kick your butt." And they initiated contact with them, and they're actually teaming up on an animated project called Iwaju, which is set in in the far future in Africa, very techno future. And I think that's just a great story. The idea of teaming up with this very globally minded strategy of recognizing filmmakers and animation studios from around the world and bringing those projects, teaming up with them to bring those projects to the forefront. I think that's great. And I think it looks like a really cool series. So that's another one. They announced so much today. I've forgotten about a lot of it. Alex Cole says, "You covered the studio's sneaky antitrust violations for years. You should reach out to the news. Maybe Sam Sater or Nomiki Konst."
Noted.
Yes. I don't. Am I missing something or
no?
No,
I think that's just advice.
Yeah, maybe I should. You should reach out to the news. Maybe I should. I don't know. Am I the news? Who's the news? Who are the news anymore? I mean, it is a sneaky. The idea of what is antitrust and what's not with all these platforms, I think, is going to be something that's litigated. We saw that huge lawsuit that was filed against Facebook from several states and the government yesterday, where they think that them having Instagram is anti-competitive. And is that going to happen with vertical distribution and stuff in the future with all of these studios? I don't know. That's a great question. Brian Pay Brian Pay or Pie, apologies if I don't get it right. Thank you so much. Just showing support, been a fan forever. Keep it up. Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate that. Jody, again, thank you, Jody.
Hey,
What
would you do me a favor,
oh, yes.
This Girl Games has put in 2 Streamlabs
Oh,
and
dear.
it hasn't shown up. So can you take a
Oh,
look
okay.
for that,
Let's see. This
please?
Girl Games.
Yes.
I see one from her from a few minutes ago. So thank you. Yes. Sorry, I haven't had one pop up here on Streamlabs. Thank you. Let me ask you right now. First chat disappeared.
totally
Trying again. 2 questions. With Spider-Man 3 bringing back all the Spideys, what about a Hulk movie bringing back all the Hulks? Also, do you think Disney Plus will time limit runs of Marvel shows to keep people subscribed so they can't wait for all? Well, I think what you're doing with the Spider-Man multiverse is you're definitely opening up the option of doing that. I think, though, the other Hulks aren't quite as beloved as the other Spideys are, and I don't
think there's a nostalgia for the fact that they had to do so much to fix it.
Maybe I don't know. I think you could maybe do that, but like, what would the? I think there's gonna be a lot of humor in the Spider-Mans all teaming up or appearing. I hope. I don't know if you get the same with Hulk, but I think you're going to see more of that playing around with the legacies of all the different characters, etc. I do think with the Marvel shows, I think there's definitely going to be some strategic scheduling. Yes, because if they're all running at the same time, then you're probably going to get some people that, game the system or whatever, or just decide to jump on for a month, jump off for 3 months. So I would be very surprised if there wasn't something running, and it takes a while to get up to steam, but I think eventually you are always going to have a top flight Marvel or Star Wars series, particularly running on Disney Plus, 52 weeks out of the year. It's like 90 Day Fiance. And I bring everything back to 90 Day Fiance.
Yes.
It's like 90 Day Fiance. At first, they just had the one show. And then once people started watching it, they've done enough spinoffs at this point that there's now a new 90 Day Fiance running every single week from one of their multiple spinoffs. I think, and I apologize because I know that this analogy has been said everywhere around the internet. I think that Marvel and Star Wars are the 90 Day Fiance of Disney Plus, in that they are going to find a way to have something running all the time, so that if you like those things, you're going to have to stay up with Disney Plus, because otherwise you're going to miss something major. So yes, Bad Batch and What If and WandaVision and all this stuff, Loki, I think you're going to see it all running one into the other so that people stay subscribed. Let's see. Jody. Okay, Jody again. Thank you. What about the Secret Invasion announcement? Okay, my last time hogging the questions. Well, first of all, you're sending in super chats. You're not hogging the questions. I appreciate it. The Secret Invasion announcement. This is how big today was. They announced Secret Invasion as like an afterthought.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, by the way, we're doing Secret Invasion. Like, that was like the thing that people have been talking about with the MCU since after Endgame, or even before Endgame. Is like, what's the next big thing in the MCU going to be? What's it going to be? And everyone's like, oh, it's going to be Secret Invasion. And then today they announced 18 things. And it was literally like, oh, by the way, there's going to be a Disney Plus project with Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn, and it's Secret Invasion. So yeah, Secret Invasion is happening, by the way. I think I even threw it on the thumbnail because that's in such a name. I think that if we're talking about surprises, it does surprise me that it was not as big of a banner headline, because that was pegged for so long to be the next big thing. And maybe that speaks even more so to the fact that it is going more toward one large running timeline with the MCU, but not necessarily this idea of like the Infinity War. It's just that Secret Invasion is going to be one cog in an ever advancing timeline on Disney Plus and in the theaters and with Marvel, etc., that you may not have these huge overarching things where you do one thing in a movie and then you wait a year till the next movie and pick it up. It may just be that Secret Invasion is going to play into 4 other projects and not be this one big cinematic event. But yeah, I assume we're going to go back to space, because that's where we left Nick Fury. And yeah, we're going back to Secret Invasion. Patrick B says, not movies, but big news. No mention of parks at all. That is true. Parks, obviously, right now, completely.
I need the charger.
Sorry, we didn't realize we'd be streaming this long. We're going dead. So thank you everyone for wanting to chat with me this long. Parks is a huge component of Disney, and there was no mention of it at all. Actually, no. I take that back. There was one brief mention of parks. They mentioned the Avengers campus that was being built at Disney California Adventure. But yeah, I think that part of it is just that they don't know when they're going to be open. And so it's almost like this is an investor day. Well, it is an investor day, but I think they were kind of thinking, let's not remind the investors of what is losing us heinous amounts of money right now. And let's remind the investors of all the cool things we're going to be making. They're going to make so much money. Don't worry about this thing losing $1 billion. Look at these things that are going to make us $1 billion. So I agree. I think on any other time that parks would have been a bigger component of this, but today it was all about what are people going to be watching at home, because that's where people are. Jack Shipley, thank you, Jack. Throwing some extra love. I'm late to this party. Did we hear if the shows will be appointment watch or full binge drops? We didn't. We did not hear. It's been Disney's so far. It's been Disney's MO to do most things as, I mean, Mandalorian obviously is appointment watching. You go and watch it every week. Honestly, I think especially as you're building out your new streaming service, as great as it is to sit and watch a show all at once, think about with Mandalorian the fact that every season that it's on, if it all dropped at one time, there would be a great weekend where the Mandalorian pops and everybody talks about the Mandalorian, or maybe two, like we see with Stranger Things. And people like Stranger Things, but like as far as the buzz goes, with the Mandalorian, the fact that they do it week to week means that every single week you have a huge social media presence and a huge marketing presence and YouTube channels like this one, where they're reviewing the episode. And instead of doing something that generates one weekend full of videos and huge social media, you have 8 weeks full of videos and social media. So if I were going to guess, I think that most of these shows are going to be week to week episodes. Maybe if the intention is like with, as they mentioned, like with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that it is a movie in 6 parts, maybe they might drop it all at one point. But if you're going to do that, why not just make it a movie that you do for Disney Plus? So I suspect that they're going to be week to week drops. That's my guess. Alex Tomai asks $5. Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much, Alex. Hey, Dan, are you excited for the Steve Martin Short show? How do you see Amazon, Apple, Netflix responding to the news from this past week? Yeah, there's going to be I think it's Selena Gomez, Steve Martin, and Martin Short have a Hulu original series that they showed a clip of, I think, to investors, but we didn't get to see any of that stuff because all I saw was a still frame and some music. I love Steve Martin and Martin Short. I think they're two of the funniest people in the world. So that's yet another thing. There's so much to watch, but that's yet another thing that I will definitely think about watching and then say for years that I need to watch it, like I have with so many other great shows on television. Oh, how do I think that the other streamers are going to react to this news? I mean, I think Amazon, Apple, and Netflix are pretty used to Disney being Disney at this point. This was definitely a shock and awe campaign. And I think it just went to show that not only did they have extreme success in their first year beyond what they even had estimated, but they also are doubling down and making even more because they have the resources to do so. And by the way, they also are pretty much the only studio in town that has the movie real estate or the movie properties that are going to get a lot of people back in theaters almost immediately when it's safe. So Disney has the capability to do a lot more. And so I really do think that, I don't know if they're going to respond directly. I think it really is just another sign that they were probably perhaps sitting back having a cocktail and realizing that they are really going to have a lot of catching up to do. And they are always going to really be looking up at Disney unless something changes. Victor Chang asks, keep up the good work. Do you think AT&T made the HBO Max move as a publicity stunt and will reverse their decision and do this only for the first half of 2021? I don't think they did it as a publicity stunt. I think that they did it because they want to replicate what Disney's doing in the sense of being able to grow their subscriber base very quickly in the way that Disney did. And I think in my opinion, they think that doing this is going to do that. And I think they are going to see a huge amount of subscriber sign up. I think it's possible that they might say, we're going to reevaluate after 6 months, especially if it becomes obvious that they're going to lose top tier talent, or if there are multiple lawsuits filed, as people have alleged that they're going to do. But I honestly would say it's far more likely, in my opinion, that they stick to their plan because they've announced it. They do have to put up some kind of sign out there that makes it seem like they know what they're doing, although they haven't done a great job of that thus far. So I don't know. I don't know if they could reverse course at this point without losing a corporate face, perhaps making their investors skittish. So that's a great question. But if I had to guess, I'd say they're probably going to stick through it through 2021. And then I think the determination of whether they do it beyond 2021 doesn't have anything to do with lawsuits or how happy directors are. I think it has to do with the bottom line. And I think if they make a lot of money and it's a viable alternative, then I think they're going to stick with it past 2021. I'm not convinced it's going to be a viable alternative unless they tend to drastically cut the budget of the movies that they make. I'm not entirely sure. I think they're going to probably have a hybrid. Long term, I think they're going to have a hybrid system.
That was just a donation.
Word Nerd 711. Thank you so much for the donation, Word Nerd. I really appreciate that. Corey Ross, $5. Oh yeah, Kang and Ant-Man 3.
Right.
He could be the long-term big bad. Yeah, that was a name that had been thrown around when the casting had been announced several months ago before I left Screen Junkies that could be Kang, but perhaps it is. I mean, it's Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. That does seem like they're going to be making some big turns toward this kind of more fun. I mean, it's always been a very fun vibe, but that they could be making that turn. So yeah, Quantumania. If Ant-Man could use a little bit of a unifying element, because that was my big thing with Ant-Man and the Wasp, is it seems a little disconnected. I liked the stuff having to do with Hope and searching for Michelle Pfeiffer and Janet and the quantum realm, and everything else seemed a bit like filler. So I'd love an overarching storyline for the Ant-Man films. JD here. Thank you, JD. I was caught off guard by the girl in her squirrel series. I'm not calling it by its actual name. Let's talk about it. Well, the girl, it's not Squirrel Girl. That was one of the only superhero things. There is a series coming to Disney Plus that is called, let's see, I took a little thing here. What is it called?
By the way, I love that you could hear that in JD's voice. Could you not?
Yes, I could. Oh, it's called Flora and Ulysses,
Yes.
which is about a little girl and her sidekick who is a squirrel, like a superhero squirrel, but it's not Squirrel Girl.
Squirrel.
It's like an action squirrel, but they like superhero movies. I mean that looks cute. I think is it a movie? I thought it was a movie. I think it might be a movie. I'm not sure. Anyway, I don't know. It could be cute. It could be not good. It didn't really grab me, so we'll see.
Those two options. It could be good or not good.
It could be good. It's very bold. I'm taking a very bold.
Analysis.
I'm taking a very bold stance on Flora and Ulysses, and I'm saying it could be good, or it could be not good. Twisock fan asks, can we talk about Tom Hanks in the live-action Pinocchio? That surprised me. Well, the Robert Zemeckis in the live-action Pinocchio, first of all, I love Pinocchio. I'm worried that Robert Zemeckis is going to make him look very creepy, because that's kind of what happens in a lot of Robert Zemeckis' movies nowadays. Tom Hanks is Geppetto. That actually seems like, if you were going to ask me like a speed round, like who should play Geppetto in a Disney movie, I'd be like Tom Hanks. Because Geppetto is like one of those, no matter how you spell his name with a J or a G, Geppetto is one of those characters that's like, his main character thing is like, he's a loving dad who he loves his son and he wants to, it's a very Tom Hanks role. So I think that makes sense. I'm just worried that we're going to get dead-eyed Pinocchio. I hope we don't do that. Corey Ross asks, Disney needs to drop Mandalorian on a normal premiere night, like how HBO dominates Sunday night usually. Disney Plus needs to do that. Yeah, I have to say as a reviewer, it is a little difficult that Mandalorian comes out here at 2:00 in the morning.
Why? We're vampires.
Well, we are vampires now. Mandalorian's kind of shifted our sleep schedule, but yeah, I think there's ups and downs to that when you drop it like that. I think that you could dominate a night if you like every Sunday night at 9:00 the Mandalorian comes on. But number one, I think that the demand on your systems would be grossly higher than they are currently, because everyone would be tuning in at that exact time to watch Mandalorian. Whereas I'm sure it's a little more staggered when you do it at midnight or 2 a.m. But I just on a selfish level, yes, I would love that, because I think that then I could review it a lot easier than waiting until 2:00 in the morning. Let's see. D-Train asks, I'm convinced Dan can play Kevin Feige in a bio. I do have to say, I respect the fact that Feige still rocks the hat. Even on Disney Investor Day, he's still rocking the hat. He's got more hair than I do, too. I think he's just, he just likes wearing it. And that's the other thing, is like, I just like wearing a hat. That's the other thing.
I'm wearing a hat. I have plenty of hair.
Even when I had a full head of hair, I just like wearing a hat. So I don't know. I agree, though. Feige is committed to the hat. Very few times I've seen it without a hat. Stacy LM78, thank you, Stacy. During the study session, I asked questions about Jagged Edge and Turner and Hooch. Jagged Edge came up on last week's charts. Turner and Hooch came up tonight. Since things come in 3, What random 80s movie do you think might be next? Ooh, is there something I've been asked about lately?
That I think will come up in the news?
Yeah, because Jagged Edge came up on charts.
Yeah.
And then Turner and Hooch came up in this news coverage.
Yeah.
I'm going to say
Hmm.
Top Secret. The Zaz Brothers Val Kilmer parody movie. I'm going to say somehow, some way, we're going to flash back to Top Secret, and I don't know how. Predator? Well, Predator's always relevant. All right. I think this is our last super chat, and then I'll probably, I'll make sure there's no more Streamlabs. And I think I'm going to call it a day after this because I didn't expect for you guys to be asking me questions for this long. This is great. Expect this to be, there's going to be a little more structure to it, and I'll be a little bit more prepped, but this is kind of a great test run of what the live show is going to be every week. I'm going to have some stories that I want to run down, and we'll have a little more structure.
Will you tease trash talk really quick?
There is a segment. Yeah, I want to make sure we're not duplicating like what someone else calls it, but there is going to be a segment every week on the live show called either Talking Trash or Trash Talk or something similar where we recap they're not all trash reality shows, but we recap the reality shows that we watch every week, whether that's the Great British Baking Show, which is not trash, 90 Day Fiance, which is very much trash. What else? Floribama Shore, which is complete trash. That's sort of our pressure valve. How we release steam is watching reality shows that are either very pleasant or total trash.
Yeah, I want my reality TV to make me feel better about my own life.
Yes, so we will be talking trash every week on the live show because that's going to be fun. But let's take the last Streamlab, which I think super chat, and then I'll check Streamlabs, which is from Ian Cody. Thank you, Ian. Hi, Dan. Big fan. I'm just curious to your thoughts on the Canadian box office and streaming service viewership. I love your charts. Wondering how CDN is doing at the box office. CDN, is that I'm trying to think, is that an abbreviation for a film, or is that just how Canada is doing at the box office? I will say, yes. As far as Canadian box office, it was actually interesting when theaters were starting to open because there were movies like SpongeBob SquarePants that were only open in Canada, but were showing up on our charts here because the domestic number that we talk about at the end of every week includes Canada's box office. So Canada actually had a healthier box office recovery right as it was starting than we have had. So it's a little tougher for me now to parse what's coming from Canada and what's not coming from Canada. Canada has been doing very well. It's just hard for me to get, and I've tried to look, it's very hard for me to find the different, like what specifically is from Canada and what specifically is from the United States as far as box office numbers, because they're reported together. So for a while, Canada actually had a much more robust box office than we did here in the US. But I also think that the question is with Disney Plus, I believe that Canada, it is a matter of fact, Canada is one of the countries that is getting in 2021 the Star service on Disney Plus, which is the service that will incorporate more mature content like Family Guy and Logan and a lot of the stuff from the Fox library, the Planet of the Apes films, that will now be accessible on Disney Plus. So for a lot of people in Canada, you will be able to reach some things through Disney Plus that we here in North America, as of now, are not able to do. And that is largely because Disney found great success in teaming up in India with their service there. It's a huge part of their subscriber base now globally, I think like 30 million people. And so providing that is kind of a pivot on Disney's part. So Disney Plus in Canada is actually going to be a different experience than it is here unless they incorporate that kind of facility here in the United States. So I think that Canada is about to diverge a little bit from what the streaming service experience is. And then as far as the box office, I'm always looking for a way to separate. Maybe they separated out somewhere that I haven't checked. But for a while, Canada was actually doing better there than we were here. JD, again, you talked about, thank you, JD. You talked about Secret Invasion being after an afterthought. What about Armor Wars? You think Armor Wars would be a huge announcement? I mean, that's the thing. All of these would be huge announcements. When you talk about Ironheart with Riri Williams, people were talking about that character as the future of Iron Man. And 3 or 4 years ago, if you had announced that, that would be a massive announcement in the MCU. Now it is one of 15 projects that they're working on. And that's what we're seeing is Marvel is going more than just a cinematic brand. It's becoming a brand across all different platforms. Is that going to work? Who knows? This is going to water down the brand. Who knows? It could backfire. People could get sick of it and stop going to the movies. I don't know. But yes, something like Armor Wars, which is about Stark armor getting to the wrong hands, that would have been a huge announcement 2 or 3 years ago. Today, it's just one of several things. Brian Pay asks, would you ever consider doing a live show on Twitch? Yes, I would definitely consider that.
You should ask.
It's on our list. It's been a crazy year, and we were kind of moving toward getting it done, and then we made this move here. And so in 2021, yes, we do want to go into Twitch. The main thing that we want to do is make sure that we have great ideas and some things that are going to be fun that make it stand out from just what we do on Patreon, what we do on YouTube. Like, we want to make the Twitch stuff its own thing so that people can pick and choose what they want to watch. And, I think we would do stuff like play-alongs and game stuff. And yeah, we're going to have a different set for Twitch. And so we're just thinking of great ideas that we think would be fun for Twitch specifically. So it's not just kind of like homogenous stuff, no matter where we're doing or what we're doing stuff on.
If you have ideas about what you want to see on Twitch, tweet us.
Yeah, let us know. And finally, Ian Cody. That was the question I asked about the Canadian box office. Okay, I think that's it. Let me check Streamlabs to make sure nothing else has come in. I don't see anything else in Streamlabs. Let me just refresh that one more time. No, I don't think anything else has come in on Streamlabs. So I think this has been a pretty successful kind of test run and a recap on the news. There was so much news today. Thank you for coming and talking to me about it. Like I said, this was a little less structured, but also way more fun and full of engagement than I had planned for this episode. I was just going to kind of recap what we saw, and then I thought maybe a few super chats would come in, but this has been a great back and forth.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to take what I've learned here, figure out how to better structure the show when we do the live show. And, I also want to, you might have seen this shirt. This is a Smash Cancer. If you don't know, our friend Kevin Smets, who is a champion among champions at the Movie Trivia Schmodown, was diagnosed with colorectal cancer a few weeks ago, and he's going a couple months ago. And he's first of all, he is going through this chemo and everything, his treatment, like an absolute champ. One of our biggest regrets about moving was that Mara and I can't pop over and see him and help out as much as we like, but we talk to him all the time, and he's very active and public and about raising awareness. Advocacy. Yeah. So number one, just the whole Smash Cancer thing. We're trying to raise awareness just for getting checked, staying healthy. If you are of an age where you need to start getting a colonoscopy to get checked for cancer, please do that. If you are at a point where you may be experiencing those symptoms and you've been putting it off or you're not sure, please consult your doctor and consider getting checked. But really, it is about raising awareness. There's also a GoFundMe set up for Kevin that you can find out. There's a Brandy, one of our wonderful mods, has put up the GoFundMe in the chat to help Kevin out with his expenses as he goes through treatment for the next several months. And really, it's just more than anything to support Smets, who is just the most awesome person and selfless, even through all of this stuff that he's doing. He's been sending me quizzes, like texting me questions as I train for this belt match in the Schmodown, and saying like, all right, here's the thing, answer this, and just the nicest person. And I'm so happy to call him a friend. So yes, please, trying to raise awareness for that and to Smash Cancer and all of that stuff. And also, if you want to check me out on Patreon, as I mentioned, patreon.com/Dan Murrell. If you want to check out my podcast, it is All My Movies. Stuff will be in the description in just a bit. And I think you probably might even be able to tune in tomorrow morning at this point, because depending on what happens on Mandalorian tonight, we're going to roll right into that review, baby. The YouTube train doesn't stop. And as I mentioned, there is going to be a Mank review, and I have charts on Mondays. So we're going to keep rolling. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to everybody that sent in super chats. I really, really appreciate everyone that sent in Streamlabs. It's so great to get to talk to people and engage. And this is the first step of much more interactivity that we're going to be doing here on YouTube. So thanks so much for coming on this big Disney News Day. We're going to be talking about all these projects for years to come, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.